Who's, I knew you were going to ask me that question. Who's Matt Walley? That's not an easy question for me to answer, primarily because I just don't talk about myself that much. Probably because I was raised by parents who were super successful and yet incredibly humble. And by example, I learned not to talk about me, but rather to lift others up, to see who I could help, to see who I could serve rather than serving myself. So I went on to be a performer. I was an opera singer for years. I did Broadway for a year and a half. And it was never about me. I wanted to touch someone out there. I wanted them to feel something. I wanted them to feel good, to laugh, to cry, to just feel, right? And I did that for a lot of years. I got tired of the traveling side of things. I got tired of 100 auditions for one gig that's a year and a half from now and lasts for 6 weeks. And so I retired. I moved here to Hilton Head, and I quickly gravitated to real estate. My family has been in real estate since 1898 when my great-grandfather started Walley Agency outside of Pittsburgh. It passed on to my grandfather, on to my father, and I worked side by side with my dad when I got out of college. Wasn't what I wanted to do forever, and it honestly wasn't what my dad wanted me to do forever. But when I retired from singing, I just was kind of pulled back to it, and I love it. I love to help my clients, but I went on to be a leader of Keller Williams offices for 9 years, 5 different offices throughout the Southeast and then even in South Africa. Spent a year and a half there helping them to hire leadership for Keller Williams South Africa. An experience I'll never forget. But through it all, through that, as I'm sitting in South Africa thinking about what I'm going to do when I come back, I decided I wanted to be a coach. I had hired a coach before South Africa who helped me with the conversations that took place to get there. And what I realized through my time with him was that he wasn't telling me what to do. He wasn't prescribing things for me to do. He was asking the right questions and listening and guiding me to figure out what I wanted to do. You know, if you're working with a coach who talks more than you do on a call, that's training. It's not coaching. Coaching, you got to ask the right questions. You got to provoke thought. You got to provoke that inner dialogue that builds awareness for the person. And so to me, there's creativity in that. And I have been on a search for creativity, for things I can do to be creative. So that's part of it. But I also found that I'm really good at poetry, really quick at it in some ways. I can write it on the fly. I can wrap up a keynote message in a poem almost by the time they've finished. I did that recently, and the speaker said, "You could have saved everybody 40 minutes because I encapsulated his message in that 5-minute poem, if that." And so I found this creativity, but my poetry, not only can I do it live, but it's around personal transformation, personal growth. Some of it in a Seussical manner is slated right now for children's books. But every time I reread them, I realize they're there to speak to adults. They're there to speak to the parents of the child, the parent that's reading the book. And so I want to get my message out there because in everything I do, whether it's real estate, whether it's coaching, or whether it's writing, I want to lift others up. Real estate's one client at a time. I want them to have the best experience they've ever had in real estate. Coaching is one client at a time. I want them to know I believe more in them than they do, and I want them to exceed their own expectations. And poetry is a way for me to get a message out to people that don't necessarily look for it or know it's there, that there's possibility, that there's more to life, that there's an escape from the things that that they dread when they get up in the morning. That there's, even if they've already succeeded, that that's still a glass ceiling we can break through and get higher, further. I love what I do in life, every aspect of it. I still sing, I coach, I sell real estate, and I write poetry that I want to get out to the world. And that's why we're here today, right? That's why I launched this channel, to try and get the message out there to anybody who needs it. That's Matt Walley.